It sure has been a while, but I am finally back to my starter base and return to Moria. And even though I have progressed, say, a little bit further in the game than last time I recorded this series, I have not actually done any work on the starter base. Well, until about an hour or two ago, because I have spent the past long while essentially trying to fix up my starter base. I recorded an intro and everything that I was going to finish the starter base. So today I'm hoping to finish my starter base. And that includes not only finishing touches outside of the actual house, but also building crafting facilities, which I have basically none of here. And at first things were going kind of okay, but I have run into a lot of issues, to be honest, so I decided that I would still record an episode for part 3 of the starter base, but it's not going to be on finishing the starter base. Instead, it's going to be on moving from it. So while in episode 2, I actually suggested that this was the perfect starter base because it is effectively completely immune to raids and just enemies in general. Bats for some reason disappear, they just despawn when they get up here. Goblins cannot make it here, they can't go across that essentially broken bridge, they can't get past that gap, and there's another gap over there they can't get past. So this is safe. There are no enemies that ever come here, and that's why I think it's one of the perfect areas in this game, because every other area I have been in has been not safe to an extent. But there are a whole lot of other issues going on here. If you all remember back to episode 1, the whole point of the series was actually to fix a crooked foundation. This entire base, this floor, everything is on top of a crooked foundation that is completely unremovable in the game. And episode 1 was basically an experiment. I was just curious if you could somehow fix that and make a nice starter house out of a crooked one that you basically had to tear completely down, at least what you can tear down in the game, and then build over it. And that actually worked. And then episode 2, I decided, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll extend this out actually as quite a bit of a starter base still, but one that I can always come back to and could potentially become a pretty important crafting base, or just a nice place to check out as a reminder of maybe my early days in this game. So I do have some sentimental value actually to this base, but right now it is causing me a lot of frustration and perhaps a little bit of a strong reaction to that. I have decided that it is time to move on from it. So one of the things that you all can see that I was working on here was basically a way to get down. I was going to build, because all this stuff is off angle again that was already here, all the structures that were already here. But I've essentially reached the limits from this stone floor. This stone floor is essentially the limits of what I can build. If I try to build a stone floor, it's not supported, so it crumbles. It makes sense that it's not supported and crumbles, but I have spent so long here trying to build support by either building up from the ground here or actually extending below the floor. And I've tried so many different combinations, I'm not going to go through them all, that none of them have worked. I even tried going all the way down to the water, and that didn't work because you can't build on water, but I tried to go into this area in general, even though I didn't even initially want to. One of the things I wanted to do with this base was actually preserve the nature, but that's also when I started thinking about another issue with this area that makes it, say, a little bit less perfect again, besides being immune to enemies, is that it is so dark here. We have some really nice bright mirrors and a nice little water area here at the bottom where cranberries grow, and even though the mirrors are so bright, the cavern as a whole is dark. There are a lot brighter areas and I think just more enjoyable areas to be in the game. Elven Quarters is an easy example for one with nature that is a lot brighter, and there's, I think, some interesting areas further into the game, such as if anybody is familiar with some of the areas in Duero Delph, I think could be really interesting to build in. So while I do like some of the ideas that we had with the starter base, I do ultimately think it is time to move on. So I'm going to be deconstructing a few of these things just so I can get some of the resources back. I know those meal tables are like 10 wood scraps, so I'll keep that little campfire there, but I think even something like the stone hearth, I'll go ahead and get rid of it. Actually, I kind of like this. This is one of the worst things I've ever built, and it's so bad that I love it, so I'm gonna actually keep my triple bed. Oh, that thing's a mess, but I'm going to keep that there, and maybe we'll keep the hearth here on the first floor. I really like this outside setup, so I think I'm going to actually keep that there as well. We'll keep the chest here for now, but I think eventually I'm going to transport all that. And the repair smithy, oops. Gotta be careful when you're in the X menu, but repair smithy, we won't need that there anymore. Honestly, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this hearth. I wasn't ever the biggest fan of that one. I can still go ahead and place some torches here. That one's floating, but that seems fitting for how I am feeling right now. But yeah, there are a few things that I honestly could just simply vent or rant about with the building in this game. Overall, it's pretty decent, but there, I think, are some issues that make it really challenging to build a structure like the one I at least had envisioned, because it, again, makes sense that you need structural support for things like this floor that I am standing on right now, but the process to actually get that structural support just isn't really working all that well. And the way the snapping works in this game when you're in like the build menu, it sometimes is very counterproductive and doesn't actually let you place things where you want to place them, which may actually work, but you can kind of never know because the game will never let you snap there. Oh wow, that actually I couldn't even get something like that to work earlier, but I guess I didn't use scaffolding. I tried to build an actual floor. So I think I'll keep that for navigation because this wall actually does work for navigation. And if you're wondering how I came about this is something that I thought, hey, you know, I might be able to actually build my own stairs and then have a second floor here that's a little bit below this one, then connect it with stairs again. But I have two heights, so I have stone walls here. I have two heights worth of them. So it's just if we go into wood and stone here, it's just the stone wall. So I've placed like one on ground level and then one above that, but I can't actually build above that at all. So if I try to build like, say, a stone barrier or something, I don't know why that is not collapsing. But I think that actually highlights another frustrating thing. Every time I tried that before, they would just collapse. Maybe having the third wall there actually helped. But actually, one of the things that I was running into issue, and I'm kind of curious about now, is I couldn't actually build a floor here because there was nothing to support it on the left. But now it looks like there is with those walls. So yeah, the building in this game is definitely can be inconsistent like that, but maybe there is some actual method to the madness. And you know what? Maybe things are actually working in a way that makes sense, just not quite to me, because I was able to build stairs there. And again, they're stuck in the middle of the wall on that side and they are supported. So that's something that works perfectly fine, but again, doesn't actually work with the heights of my base. And just to give an example, if I actually do get it to build a little bit lower here, that's instead of snapped to this floor that I'm basically standing on now, if I try to build it there, that's snapped to the floor height that I actually want, it doesn't work. Even if I move it to where it would be intersecting with the wall and so maybe supported by the wall, it does not do that. I've just been running into a lot of issues like that with this base, but that's also just this corner. It's been way worse over on this side, and this is where I was really hoping to extend, maybe add some pallets and just interesting things like that, as well as a lot of my crafting facilities. I was hoping to extend that sort of stuff to this side, and this basically be my little crafting corner and cover up this damaged monument was one of the big points. And I was able to like build walls and kind of box this in, but I wasn't ever able to actually extend up to the floor and support the floor, so it could be extended out a little bit further no matter what I tried there. Okay, so I have pretty much built this box actually around the damaged monument. So looking up from the top here, we actually have this little gap that I will go ahead and fill in, hopefully just with stone barriers that seems to, wow, barely not line up. That's kind of crazy. So I will leave this here, and I will actually leave this base open to future restoration projects, but right now that is, I think, where I'm going to leave it as a starter base. And as far as where to build next, I've kind of been thinking, I have a few different ideas. This is my little temporary structure I just did in the Elven Quarter here, something to keep me relatively safe without much building. I was saving the building for the starter base, but I'm thinking a sort of restoration type project here, or just building project here that maybe works around once again the crooked angles that we have with some of the naturally generated structures here. I think that could be an interesting project, and look how much prettier it is in this area. You can actually see and different things like that, which I really enjoy. So I'd be tempted to perhaps actually move my starter base either this corner, I think could be interesting, or even the other corner over there, or maybe even by the Elven Forge. So if y'all have any thoughts on that, I would be really interested to hear those. I do have map stones now. As you saw, I instantly traveled here, so I can definitely get access to more of those and even build a large network of hearths. It might take a little bit to get those resources, but I am willing to do that to potentially build in this entire Elven Quarters, but again, preserving the natural area. So yeah, I realize this building episode has had not much building and a lot more chatting, but I hope you all still enjoyed it nonetheless, and I'd be really interested again if you all have any ideas for future building episodes where I actually build, or maybe if you have any advice that I could just be completely missing something with how to, say, expand the structure for the actual starter base that I have right now. But hopefully in the next week or two, I'll get started with the first episode on the mid-game base that will probably become my primary base for the rest of this world. And even though building, at least trying to record this episode, originally has been a little bit frustrating, I'm actually really excited for a new series. I'm going to be trying hardcore Return to Moria. I still consider myself somewhat of a noob at this game, but I'm going to be trying a hardcore solo world coming up in the near future. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe for it. And on that note, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, and thanks for watching, everyone.